Hello and welcome to the Hack Responsibly podcast, where we get to know NetSPI's technical leaders. I'm your host, Karl Fosaaen, and today we'll be speaking with Patrick Sayler, the Director of Social Engineering Services here at NetSPI. I've had the pleasure of working with Patrick for almost 10 years now, so we'll have lots of fun things to talk about. I really appreciated getting the chance to sit down with Patrick for this conversation and hope you enjoy it. Here's Patrick. Welcome to Hack Responsibly, a NetSPI podcast focused on the experience of our NetSPI agents, including the insights and trends in the cybersecurity industry. Today, I have Patrick Sayler here with me from NetSPI. What have you been working on recently? What's top of mind for you right now?
I have spent so much time uh, researching and diving into various, you know, open source intelligence, or we'll call it that. I've spent a lot of time Googling, a lot of time digging into a very specific set of individuals for a pretty significantly large project. So while not necessarily like a pen test style type of engagement, it is more of a threat assessment against these individuals. And it's really a different kind of take on what we do in the social engineering space. Instead of targeting 50 people as part of a phishing campaign, I've been honed in on this very small set of individuals for a very long time. So it's a little eye-opening, the kind of stuff that's out there, honestly.
Yeah, it can be a little scary when you start digging into your own information that's out on the internet. I know I've seen that firsthand. Not fun. And I suppose we probably should have started off with, who you are, what do you do at NetSPI, job title, those kind of things. You want to give everybody a little intro about yourself?
Yeah, so I am Patrick Sayler. I am the Director of Social Engineering at NetSPI. So I directly oversee our phishing, vishing, phone calls, smishing, text message, on-site and physical service lines. So pretty much if it involves talking to a person, that falls under my area of expertise and what I directly manage. I've been with NetSPI for just over 9 years now, started in 2016. But prior to that, I've been in cybersecurity since about 2010. Um, so I've been around for quite a while, and really all about social engineering my entire pen testing career.
I will say that's a long run for doing social engineering as someone who's done it themselves in the past. It feels like it has a bit of a burnout rate, given the often stressful environments that you end up in social engineering. So, uh, good to see that you stuck with it that long.
Yeah, for some people it's really draining. Lying and it takes a toll on them, but for whatever reason, I just really thrive and it gives me lifeblood in this environment. I don't know what that says about me, but I couldn't imagine focusing on any other area of the industry.
I will say it is hands down the most exciting kind of engagement that you can be on. Yeah, it's fun to, pop a shell on some kind of exploit or find some kind of new vulnerability, but I don't think there's anything that quite matches the energy you get when you walk into a building or talk your way into the front door somewhere.
No, it's unparalleled. A pretty fun side story. Yeah, during a recent engagement, a couple of us, one of our goals was to, not just get passwords out of people or reset credentials, but the client wanted us to literally get a laptop. So the issue here is that we weren't allowed to go on site. It's not phishing or on site, it was all over the phone. So we were forced to talk to their technical support help desk, trick them into, giving us a laptop in some way. So my tactic was, oh, I was at a coffee shop, and what do you know? I tripped over my power cable, laptop shattered all over the floor, coffee everywhere. Very embarrassing. I got a big meeting on Monday. I need you to overnight the laptop to me right away. And sure enough, it worked. And that's worked about 3 or 4 times in the last 2 months.
Wow.
Um, so not only uh, would they get a laptop to us, but most recently, a colleague of mine said he got them to reset all of the credentials in MFA2. So, you've got everything at that point.
Uh, one of my, I- I'd say one of my favorite collaboration, kind of in-office things. For everybody's reference, Patrick is our first Portland employee. I moved out to the Portland area about 10 years ago, and Patrick was the first person to join us at NetSPI out here after I had been out here. And I've had some kind of fun in-office things within the Portland office, but one of those that really sticks out is the time that you MFA fatigued a target for social engineering. I'd never seen that
Oh,
work before, and I think you sent
oh.
like 10 requests for MFA approval. And do you remember that one?
Yeah, oh, I certainly do. Yes, that was that was a depressing one. Yeah, so um MFA fatigue, exactly what happened. I kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And eventually, one of the things that happened was, this employee got fed up and they opened a ticket with their own internal security team and like, hey, I'm getting a bunch of these notifications. What should I do? They're getting pretty annoying. And the bright idea that their tech support team had was, well, we don't want to bother our employee anymore. They need to get their work done. They just disabled MFA completely. So that stopped all the notifications and meant I, it just completely removed that aspect entirely, and I could get in.
Well, and you kind of feel bad for the person because they're going to have to reset up their token, which really doesn't take that long, but it is kind of a headache to just have to deal with that. But yeah, just the light bulb moment of, oh, well, we can just make it look like it's broken and it's just constantly pushing things, and then they just disable it, and now we can do our own. Okay, cool.
Yep, and you really feel for them because they did all the right things. They reported it to security, and they
Yep.
they I could obviously tell something wasn't right, but um, it kind of went above them and wasn't even their fault. So
Yeah. Well, you mentioned a little bit about kind of your start in cybersecurity here, but would you be able to give me kind of a quick rundown of how you got your start in cybersecurity?
yes, so way, way, way back in the day, 2010, I worked for a managed security services provider. I started out as a system and network administrator. Um, I was in that role for maybe about a year, a little over, a little under, but I did wasn't quite right for me. I spent most of my time managing our website, and um, my boss decided, let's move you into more of a marketing role because that's where the website was. I kind of ran into managing all the social media stuff and, blog posts and press releases and newsletters, etc. And um, if there was one thing about my former employer, the pen testers there were very traditional hackers, so they weren't the most um, uh, interested in talking with clients, I guess. I don't know how else to put that. Um, but someone on the sales team decided, hey, we do pen testing. We're going to do a social engineering test. And they sold it to a customer. And no one on the team was at all interested in talking on the phone to a client for more than 5 minutes. So my boss decided, hey, Patrick, you do marketing. Um, you have some experience here. How about you want to make some phone calls for us, see how it goes? And in my first phone call as a ever for a phishing test, I managed to get business credit card numbers, reset or change corporate like customer account information. I'm trying to be careful at what I say, but it was like a financial
Yep.
client, and I found someone. This customer had their signature attached to a speeding ticket. And then I scanned it, photoshopped it into like this PDF form to change their financial account. Like I basically forged all their information and managed to change all of their like business entity data to myself. And after those series of calls, my boss was just like, "Yeah, Patrick, you're a pen tester now. Congratulations." So I started with phone calls, and then I had to learn all of the other aspects to pen testing, not just, you know, getting the results, but building reports, learning how to do web app hacking, net pen, everything else, which is a very backwards way to get into the industry because traditionally you kind of start with your web applications and you establish yourself there before branching out into other practices. But uh, I was the problem child.
It it does seem like a bit of a non-traditional start to a pen testing career, but what an origin story. That's an awesome way to get into it. I did a very small amount of social engineering over my career, and my start was let's make the intern do it. Because same kind of idea with phone calls. A prior company that I worked for, where I had an internship, the guys on the team really didn't want to make the phone calls that week, and they said, "Well, Karl's here. Let's have Karl do it." And yeah, ended up doing a handful of phone calls, and not quite the success that you had there with your first engagements here, but still a fun trial by fire, for sure.
Yeah, and that's kind of the only way to get into that particular part of testing. It's very difficult to train against fake people or send yourself phishing emails. Like you kind of need to be thrown into the real deal very quickly, and you'll pick it up.
Oh yeah, yeah, right into the deep end. So, if you could talk to, start of career Patrick here and give yourself some advice, any advice that you'd give yourself, or I guess anybody else that's early on in their cybersecurity career?
Uh, yes, I will say a couple things. One of the things that kind of kept me going at my first place was just being willing to take anything on. So when I said I started as a sysadmin, that also meant building desks for all the new employees. So I built my own desk my first day, and you know, the first pen tester that we hired at that time, I built his desk too. So that's not a good answer, but being willing to take on tasks and different little things outside of what might be your defined business role is a good start. Helps you get experience with other things. Not that you'll be building desks as a pen tester. If I could go back, I'd learn more about the technical aspects of pen testing instead of focusing so much on the social engineering part, because there's a relatively small portion of the consulting work that's out there. Uh, Web apps, they've been saying it for a decade now, but web applications are on the rise, and that's just where the volume of everything goes. If you want to be a pen tester in this day and age, you need to know how to, find SQL injection, how to trigger cross-site scripting, all of your OWASP top 10 things. That's pretty much essential
Oh
nowadays.
yeah. Yeah, and a lot of those skills transfer between different types of services, be it web app, thick app, network pen testing. A lot of those skill sets do kind of transition between those different service lines that are out there. I really agree with your first point or first recommendation, though. The piece of advice I always give people is show up, even if it just means showing up for a local security group meeting or something like that to meet people and network and learn that kind of stuff, or just by showing up and helping out. Hey, I can help out with this thing in the office, or I can do this thing to help somebody else in the team. It doesn't have to be a in-person kind of thing. Just saying, oh, hey, I can, help you with that report or help you do these verifications, anything like that. There's so much that you can learn and just great relationships that you can build just by showing up and being helpful and being there. So totally agree with you on that first part.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's so much you could just even yeah, like you said, small little verifications, like running tiny scripts to get that code output. Well, now you know what to expect out of it, how to even get the tool set up. That's like a huge part of it as well. Maybe you don't have experience with Linux commands and you're like a Windows person, but this particular test calls for a very specific, Linux tool. Well, then you can start learning that as well.
So speaking of tools, techniques, those kind of things, everybody's got their kind of one go-to thing that they really can't live without, or maybe it's one of the first things that you're going to do during a social engineering engagement. Do you have one specific technique or tool, anything like that, that you really can't live without?
Yes, that would be one, my phone. You could do anything straight up over a phone call, as I already mentioned earlier. But um, device code phishing, device code attacks against, Entra, Microsoft 365, whatever you want to call it, that has been my go-to over the last year or two at this point, and it is astounding how successful it is. So for anyone that's not familiar, device code attacks, I like to think of it. I know I'm talking with the Microsoft expert here, so feel free to correct me at any point. But let's say you're watching YouTube or Netflix on your TV. It's your first time logging in, and it's got that big banner that says use ABC123 at youtube.com to sign into your account. So what's actually happening there is the television is calling out to YouTube or Google or whatever, and it says, hey, if someone enters this specific code, then you know give me their authentication tokens as them. So as the user, uh, you type it in while you're authenticated to YouTube on your laptop. It knows you're logged in on your laptop. YouTube television knows, okay, it all kind of synchronizes, done magic stuff in the background. And what the television will get is a set of access tokens. We'll call it like an API key or, access or refresh tokens that give it the equivalent to an authenticated session. So what I do, and if I explain any of that wrong for this podcast, please correct me, Karl.
I think you're spot on there.
Awesome. So what I tend to do now is I use one of the many, many device code toolkits out there, Graph Runner from Black Hills InfoSec, Graph Spy, who is on GitHub. I think that's just an individual, or Token Tactics even. Um, you know, they will handle generating that device code. I will then call the client's help desk and say, hey, you know what? I'm having a bunch of issues accessing this Teams meeting. Would you mind trying to enter the meeting ID for me? So I would then direct the person to microsoft.com/device login. Again, this is all within Microsoft 365, Entra, etc. They go to microsoft.com/device login. I give them the device code for whatever it generated. We'll say ABC123 again. Um, and then they're on a legitimate Microsoft website. It asks them, oh, it looks like you're trying to log into Office. Do you approve this? They'll click accept. And at that point, afterwards, if everything's, I want to say configured correctly, but actually would be misconfigured or insecurely configured, I would then retrieve their access tokens. So I like to do that against the help desk because that's a privileged user. It's not often that the help desk is getting asked these types of questions. Usually they're on the lookout for password reset requests, things like that. But, you know, if if you receive a call from someone asking you to go to Microsoft.com, that all sounds above board. Like it's a very legitimate kind of issue. You call it like 2:59 right before a meeting's about to start, you can catch them off guard and put the pressure on, like, I'm joining the meeting in 2 minutes, help me out. So there's a lot of different aspects to that that really just kind of work out in my favor.
Well, I feel like that's one of the more evolving kind of techniques that we've run into in recent years, as compared to just sending somebody an email with either a link or an attachment that's malicious, anything like that. I feel like this is kind of that next evolution into that space.
Yes, definitely. And it's only within the last, I want to say 6 months, maybe 10 months that I think Microsoft has started to lock down a lot of this, where maybe this time last year, you could go to microsoft.com/device login. It would just look like, a page. But now if you go to it, it very clearly has this warning that says, don't enter codes you don't trust. So even though this entire kind of like technical workflow has existed for a relatively long time, it's only now that people are starting to pick up on it. So
Well, I feel like that's pretty similar to the permissions granting or OAuth consent phishing that's been going on as well. I feel like Microsoft's made some steps to say, hey, you sure you really want to authorize this application to read your email or read your OneDrive files or anything like that? So it's good to see some improvements there.
yeah, and I believe. Um, correct me if I'm wrong, but all of the recent Salesforce uh, activity has followed a very similar workflow as well. I think it was, um,
With the connected apps. Yeah,
yes, yeah, that's
that's
right.
very, very timely news right there. Yes. Well, yeah. So I think that's a fantastic technique. It's really good to hear that. Well, maybe it's good to hear. I don't know if it's always such a hard thing to measure, good or bad, when we're having success with some of these social engineering techniques. You want them to work for our sake, but for the sake of the person that's getting phished or social engineered out of credentials or whatever, I always feel a little bit bad. But good to hear that that's getting some good mileage.
Yeah, and yeah, if you don't feel bad, then you're probably doing it wrong, or maybe this isn't the industry for you.
That's a very good point. Well, cool. Well, this is a great time for us to take a quick break here. But when we come back, we've got Patrick Sayler from NetSPI, and we'll be right back. All right, we are back with Hack Responsibly and Patrick Sayler here at NetSPI. Wanted to get into a little bit more discussion with Patrick regarding kind of how things have evolved over the past few years. We just talked device code phishing and touched a little bit on OAuth consent grant phishing, but those are just a couple of examples of how some of this threat landscape or social engineering landscape has kind of changed in recent years. From your perspective, what have you seen as kind of a shift in that landscape over the last 5 to 10 years here?
What was the last 5 to 10? Okay, well,
Well, we don't have to go
yeah,
that far
that's,
back.
that's
I
yeah.
just thinking as long, as you're coming up on almost 10 years here at NetSPI, I think you've seen a fair amount of change in the social engineering landscape. If you could walk us through some of the things that you've seen that have changed over the years here.
Yeah, so way back in the day, just thinking about phishing itself and the toolkits that were available for people to use, they were pretty rudimentary, you know, cloning login pages, all relying on like editing HTML to make it look perfect, and since then we have adversary in the middle attack platforms that, essentially act as a proxy between the victim and the target web application, which would allow you to intercept session cookies, MFA tokens, all of those things that are still really bad. Device codes, like we said, and obviously it goes without saying, just the fact that generative AI is making creating phishing emails easier than ever. That's like the biggest thing ever. So one of the things that a lot of people are trained to look out for. You take your security awareness training. It's like look for typos, look for all these, uh, hallmarks of a traditional poor phishing email, like grammar, broken images, etc. Like you could just have an LLM generate a very professional email and text, like literally just like the verbal or not verbal, the content of an email, make it look professional, and that's just increased or lowered the barrier to entry to a lot of these things. So what could take, a couple hours to fix the style sheet and make an email look good, AI can just spit it out in seconds, and um, that's kind of frightening. It's not
Oh,
just for me as a pen
absolutely.
tester, but for the rest of the world as well. It's just it makes things harder and harder for people to identify as a potential attack.
When you start throwing in generative video and audio into the mix as well, and all of a sudden you have people that are real time impersonating other people that they might actually know. Yeah, that gets to be a little bit scary. I do wish that we could have AI generated Aaron Schultz join us here today, but I don't know if he's gonna be able to make it.
Well, give me 10 minutes and I'll get them ready. But it is one thing to like kind of I don't know the best way to say this, but with all of these advancements here and all these things to look out for, all of the attackers are still using the same techniques. They're all more or less looking for the same things still. And uh, I'm not sure I'd call a lot of this new. Like you just called out deepfake video. Uh, I'm thinking back to a project that I worked on earlier this year where the client had a very robust identity verification system set up for calling into their tech support where, you had to have a government ID, you had to do a selfie check, you get on video chat with the help desk agent, and they would visually identify, yes, this is an employee, yes, they match their ID, yes, this is the right person. Well, all of that goes out the window when uh, you put on an N95 mask and print out someone's LinkedIn profile picture onto a piece of plastic to look like a badge. Like it's you sometimes you don't need to go through all these advanced technical techniques. You could just go back to, I'm sure this was happening in the 1920s or in 1820s, kind of tricking people in the same exact way. Um,
I would
yeah,
love to see you time travel to go do social engineering.
I'd
But
nothing I'd love more to be a rootin' tootin' cowboy at a bank.
there you go. Well, and I totally agree with you. I think that it all really relies on just those underlying principles where there's maybe a sense of urgency or fear or other kind of triggers that you can push to get somebody to give up that credential or visit that link or open that payload. It all kind of boils down to the same psychological kind of triggers to a certain degree. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, and people just need to be a little bit more willing to say no. I know it is a lot of times they're in a position to help people, like it is the help desk, that is their job, but sometimes they'd be little bit too helpful. And if they just kind of follow the policies they already have in place, if I call in and only give part of my date of birth, don't give me a hint for the rest of it. Don't tell me which street my grandma grew up on. Just say, nope, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Move about your day. It's just you just need to kind of stop.
I'm having flashbacks to phone calls here that I did in the past where people have absolutely done that. It's like, oh, I'm gonna guess 1, 2, 3, 4 or whatever as the last four of the social. No, we don't have that on file here. I'm like, what? No, that should be it. What's the first number you have? Well, it says it starts with a 4, and maybe they'll mumble off the other number. Like,
Yeah.
it's definitely run into that before. Those are always fun.
Yeah, but
Um,
I
yeah.
really enjoy when they catch themselves after doing it. So they'll give out like part of or the full answer to a question, and then like it catches me off guard. Like, wait, what? Say that again? And then they'll be like, "Oh, no, sorry, I can't help you." But of course, I'm recording the entire call. I could just listen
Yep.
to the wave file at the end of the day.
Well, uh, I think you and I could probably swap social engineering stories for another hour here, but do you have a most memorable engagement or favorite engagement moment that you could probably talk about?
Ooh, okay. There's just so many to pick from.
I
Let's
have a personal
see.
favorite of yours, if it's not the same. I'm thinking of the lunch that you had, but
Oh,
you also don't have to talk about that one if you don't want to.
no, I love that one. I feel so bad for that person too. So let me think back. This was several years ago now. Let me see
I
when
want
we'll
to
edit
say that
this
was
out.
probably what, 6 years ago?
Yeah, that was at least 6 or 7 years ago. Okay.
Okay.
So, uh, I am in big city, high-rise building. The goal of this test, it was on-site, it was a physical test, and I just had to get into the premises. Of course, it's blocked by turnstiles and security guards and elevators with badges, and then retina scanners once you get up into the office as well. So all very kind of like defense in depth kind of thing. Um, so after I go in, I'm like getting a lay of the land. I turn back around. I go to just the coffee shop next door, and I decide, uh, you know, getting in directly is not going to work ever. So I set up a couple email accounts, and I reached out to the people that were working that office, which was largely the financial department, and this client, this organization has several offices, so it's not like they were only located here. They're spread out all over the country. So my whole tactic was, hey, I have a really long layover for my flight. Um, I need to get some work done. Would you mind if I just pop into the, local office here to catch my breath, take a minute and just get some things done so I'm not sitting at the airport all day? Sure enough, within, 5, 10 minutes, I get a response and they say, yep, come on in. Give me your phone number. Well, they didn't directly say come on in. They said, give me your phone number. We'll have someone reach out to you and then they'll kind of escort you up. So not long after that, I get a call directly from the CFO, and he kind of starts asking me about what's going on. I tell him, yeah, I'm just kind of in town for a couple hours. I just need somewhere to sit. And he's like, okay, I'll be there in about 15, 20 minutes. Well, it turns out the CFO was at a conference and he just wanted to get out and like stretch his legs a little. So he walked 15 to 20 minutes away from the conference over to the office. He takes me over to the security desk, gets me a guest badge, gets me through the turnstile, scans his badge to open the elevator, scans his eyes to get into the office, and then goes up to the front desk and says, hey, this is Patrick. Let everyone know he's going to be working here for the day. And I'm golden. I'm in. I think perfect. That's all I need to do. He can go about his day back to his conference, and I'll do some dumpster diving, look for unlocked workstations, maybe find a password or two under a keyboard. No, no, no. He was really looking to get away. So he brings me over into their boardroom, their conference room. Think a 20, 30 foot long table, like in a television show or a movie. And he sits down, and I thought the jig was up. I thought he was gonna, say, "Hey, I know what's going on." Nope. He decides to ask me, so how'd you get into, network administration? And he just kind of sits down and he wants to just chat with me. And then for the next 30 minutes, I need to give this guy my fake life story about how I'm super passionate about, network admin and how I have my CCNA and, finally got a job here at an entry level, but I'm going to work my way up to a full-time admin and all these things. And like one of our other testers, Dallin, he's testing another location for this client. And so I'm like in the middle of slacking or texting him, like, Dallin, what's your hotel you're going to? What's your rental car? Give me all this info. Like, I need like just data to work off of so I'm not stuck uh, talking to this guy. And eventually it's around 11:30, 12 o'clock, and he's like, you hungry? You want to go get some lunch? Let's go get some lunch. And he goes to make a phone call to make lunch reservations. The CFO and a big city is making lunch reservations. Like, wow, where is he going to take me? And unfortunately, uh, our point of contact was watching the entire interaction from a security camera. He sent someone else over and was like, yeah, you're done, Patrick. Call it off. You've had enough here. So that was that was enough of a proof of concept for them. Now, doesn't just end there. Uh, I felt kind of bad for him because like at that point I'm done for the day. The client wanted me to kind of leave. There was nothing else that they needed me to do there. Uh, but I couldn't just tell this executive, you got tricked. How do I get out of this situation gracefully? And every office is kind of empty. It's like no one else could really talk to him because of the day. And I go over to someone else who was in on it. It's like, oh, help me come up with an idea here. So we decided to say that my flight is leaving early, or I got a different flight and I just had to go. And I go to break the news to the guy, and he's just like super dejected, like, oh, okay, well, have a good flight, I guess. And we went our separate ways. And to this day, I still think about where he was going to take me for lunch and if he ever even got brought in on the fact that it was a test.
Well, I feel like it's been long enough. I mean, maybe you should connect with him on LinkedIn and maybe
Yeah,
tell the story at that point.
I'm not opposed to that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that there are a handful of other really fun stories that I feel like you're constantly uh, coming up with new ones here and there whenever we get to catch up. So uh, that was the first one that came to mind for me when I started
Yeah.
thinking about stories you've told me. But yeah, that one's a great one.
Yep. And the more and more I think about it, the more stories I tell, and I feel like eventually everyone in the Portland office is going to get tired of me visiting because I always have something new to talk about, or regale everyone with the stories of what has happened in my lifetime with these tests because I find them fascinating, but I'm sure everyone gets kind of tired of hearing, yeah, you got a password. Really cool, Patrick. Now, I just got domain admin through SQL injection. How about that? I'm happy.
Well,
I like what I do.
well, as we continue to talk to other folks, through this series of podcasts here, we'll maybe get a few of those stories, but I think they're all great, and I'm probably a little personally biased towards the social engineering ones, as I've done social engineering in the past and can definitely feel that, but I would definitely say it seems to be a popular topic in terms of stories that we share with folks, and usually it's more relatable too. Because not
Oh,
everybody's, dealt with SQL injection, right? But everybody's had a conversation. So definitely a very relatable topic there.
yep. I'm always the most popular person when I go to get my hair cut, or they just love hearing about what I do. Like, yeah, I hack people. I trick them over the phone, and it's just kind of easy for people to get. You're right.
See, I kind of gave up on that. I don't know what you do when people ask, "Oh, what do you do for work?" And I used to kind of go, "Oh, well, I'm a professional computer hacker," because that's the easiest way to explain it. Uh, but if you go the like, "Oh, well, I work in IT or I work in IT security," oftentimes you get the like, "Oh, well, I got this problem with my computer." It's like, "Well, no, no, no. It's just you asked me a personal question. I answered it. I'm not here to, you know, okay, I can look. Like, what?
I
what?
I've I've found that when people ask what I do and I say cybersecurity, their first response is, "Oh, so you catch the bad people?" And then I'm like, "No, no, I am the bad people." And that
I
gets the
am the
point
danger.
across. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, well, that was a fantastic story, and I really appreciate you sharing all of that with me here. We're going to take another quick break here, but we'll be right back. And we are back with Patrick Sayler from NetSPI. We're going to wrap things up here with a little bit lighter content, getting out of the social engineering and kind of the deeper technical things a little bit, and get to know Patrick a little bit better. Do you have a favorite hacker piece of media, be it a book, movie, TV show, video game, anything like that?
Jurassic Park, Dennis Nedry. I'm looking at my desk right now, and it's an absolute mess, and I really relate to him at the moment.
You
That
didn't
also
say the
happens to
magic
be,
word.
that also happens to be my favorite movie ever. And I love dinosaurs. So yeah,
There you go.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I just went to a natural history museum, and I swear the theme song from Jurassic Park went into my head as we walked into this big room of dinosaur bones. And yeah,
It's majestic.
yeah, and very good choice on that. Do you have a favorite conference that you've been to I guess it could be a security conference or otherwise?
I would say besides Portland, and I guess besides conferences in general, uh, I really enjoy them. Uh, I guess selfishly, it is one of the first places that I presented and doing con talks. I haven't done a lot, but B-Sides is a very, very, I guess, welcoming environment where you can kind of come in with either entry level talks or take it up all the way into, dropping 0 days. But it's just a whole different audience, or the audience is pretty wide. So you don't need to be like the most technical attacker ever to have something to share.
Well, and we have such a great community in the Portland area. I was really impressed when I moved out here about 10 years ago, coming from Minneapolis, where we had a very, very robust kind of hacker infosec community out in the Minneapolis area, coming out to Portland and finding that it was very similar. And there were so many just awesome people that I've gotten to meet over the last decade here, and many of them being involved with B-Sides PDX. Just it's a wonderful community to be a part of. So good to hear.
Yeah.
So I'd say many of us at NetSPI here are kind of hackers outside of work. I can think of one thing, recently with radios that you and I have been kind of toying around with, but we can talk about that. Outside of that, um, is there anything that you have, from kind of a personal tech project perspective or kind of things you've been hacking on?
Uh yeah, so the big one, of course, is Meshtastic, and we'll get to that in a second. Other than that, I've spent a lot of my time um I have a whole collection of like physical media, video games, DVDs, etc., and I want to back it up just to have it. So I bought a couple extra, external disk drives, and I've been running them through. I have a whole, what is it called? Automated ripping machine called ARM. I can find it later. But it will, you put in a disk, it auto reads it. It will pull all the kind of like metadata and, disk name, et cetera, tag it, and then convert it and drop it into whatever specific file type you want. So I've got 3 or 4 disk drives running at any given moment, backing up all of my anime DVDs, just season after season after season. And it's a little loud, but I really like having that backup because those those types of shows and media just are expensive and hard to find
Oh
nowadays.
yeah, and having that, available to you so that you could just pick your favorite episode and watch whenever you want to, instead of having to pull out a DVD and then find which episode and use an actual DVD player. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I went through a similar project about a year and a half ago, just to get all of that stuff backed up, and then I can just box it all up and keep it off in a closet, and we're good to go. So
Yeah,
right there with you.
the one thing I'm missing though is I would love if there were some player, maybe Jellyfin does it, maybe Plex does. I'm still ripping stuff, so I haven't really went too far into it, but I like the experience of navigating through the DVD menus. Like there's always something little
Oh,
secret hidden things or games or you just kind of lose that magic when you load up AVI files or MKVs or whatever. So I just want to load an ISO and then browse through the disk myself. I
there
think
you
that's a little
go.
sketchy, or not sketchy, but I haven't really
Yeah,
found a good
it's
playback
almost like
format for that yet.
it's almost like a DVD player emulator at that point, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, if any listeners have recommendations for Patrick, we'll list out some socials and stuff where you can connect with us and send us your recommendations. Uh, it's we both kind of alluded to it, the Meshtastic stuff that we've been playing around with, without doxing us location wise. We're not that far away from each other in Oregon, but I'm a little further down the valley from you, and I'm almost to a point where I think I can get that far north at this point. But I've got a couple of Meshtastic nodes set up at my house to try and reach out to the rest of the world and do communication stuff. But you've been playing around with that as well?
Yes, I've picked up a couple of them. I'm looking to set up an outdoor node at some point as well, and you sent me some really awesome walkthroughs to get that set up, like a whole solar powered kind of system. Right now, I just have a couple sitting in my office and um, what is Sense Cap. I think it's kind of like a credit card sized one that I can carry around with me everywhere. It is so cool. I know there's a lot of big hullabaloo at DEF CON about some issues that came up with the application itself and whether or not it's totally secure or private, but I'm not buying it to be secure or private. I'm looking at it from a prepper mindset. I need to contact people in an emergency, and this is the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're in Oregon, and you and I have both had to deal with wildfire smoke and wildfires kind of encroaching on us. Being able to talk to people or ping people via Meshtastic actually be really handy here. So I'm right there with you. For those that are not familiar, we probably should have started this. Uh, Meshtastic is a kind of long range radio that is a peer-to-peer network. And there's a lot of adoption, particularly in Oregon, where Patrick and I are. So we've got a pretty healthy mesh out here of folks that can relay messages and everything like that. So it's a fun thing to play around with. I believe it's meshtastic.org if you want to go check it out. Well, those sound like some fun personal projects, and I love the Meshtastic stuff. It's a lot of fun to be playing around with. With that, we'll wrap things up here. Thanks everybody for listening to this edition of Hack Responsibly. I'm Karl Fosaaen. We've had Patrick Sayler here with us on this round, and you could probably find either of us through any of the NetSPI social media links. But Patrick, do you want to share where folks can get in touch with you?
Yeah, I am on LinkedIn as Patrick Sayler, Blue Sky, Twitter, P Sayler, GitHub, P Sayler. I'm not the most active on any of these platforms, but if you send it, I will get it. Or if you send it to Karl, he can send it to me as well.
I can always route things over to Patrick as well. You can find me on most of the social media links under K Fosaaen, LinkedIn, X, Threads, Blue Sky, all sorts of different places. But feel free to reach out to either of us, particularly if anybody's got one of those solutions for emulating a DVD player. We'd love to hear.
Please do.
All right, cool. Well, we will wrap things up here with Hack Responsibly. Thanks everyone for listening, and talk to you next time. And that was our conversation with Patrick Sayler. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Hack Responsibly. If you'd like more episodes, make sure that you like, subscribe, follow all the things, and check out NetSPI's website to get connected with us. Thanks again, and remember to hack responsibly.